Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's Adam Ratliff with Adam's So Fun, and today I have a very special guest, and it's little Barry Fanilow, at Barry Fanilow on Instagram. This is little Barry. He's 8 months, like 2.5 pounds. I don't think he's getting much bigger, but he had surgery yesterday. So, he wants to stay next to me, which I still like because I took him to have the surgery and I thought he was going to hate me for a while, but he only didn't like me for about 20 minutes when we were still in the car. So I just put him up on my cutting table so I can keep an eye on him while I'm filming because the show must go on, right? So he's going to stay here. He's so spoiled. He has a little electric blanket while we're in our basement. And I just do a little cover, and then he's going to fall asleep, which is perfect because then we're going to talk about this video. I get a ton of questions from people. Thank you for all your questions. You inspired me to make videos. I know a lot of you have questions about borders. I'm trying to think of a way I can make a series of videos and talk about it and show you how to do everything. So bear with me. It'll come. I got to make them, and I got to edit them, and I have to travel and teach. So, you know, where's all the time? That's all I need. I just need more time. But the series I'm filming right now is called Holy Crop because we're going to be talking about cropping. And one of my favorite things about cropping is when I'm teaching a Pro Stitcher class to someone who is new to Pro Stitcher or someone who doesn't have Pro Stitcher and is kind of thinking they might want to get it, but they want to see it work first. When we go in and crop things, there's always a reaction. There's an audible gasp or someone screamed once, which just made me totally laugh out loud. I mean, I think you noticed that I kind of like to have fun. Those are my favorite. When I hear a gasp or a scream or something, it's the best time because it shows how easy it is to use these features. But a lot of people still aren't really sure how crop works or, you know, what they're doing. Or maybe you're a new Pro Stitcher owner and you're like, I know I could do it, but I'm not really sure how. This first video is going to be about crop theory. We're going to go into simulator and I'm going to show you different ways crop works. And then we'll have another video, maybe two, depending on how long they are. I like to keep these around 20 minutes, maybe 30. But we'll go back to the machine and have it actually stitch out and show you how to use it in real time. But true story, Ben plays fabulous piano, he plays viola, he plays violin, and at one point I wanted him to teach me how to play. And I said, okay, this is the song I want to play. He's like, no, if you're going to learn piano, you're going to learn piano theory. And then I said no, and then that never happened. I still don't know how to play piano. But with cropping, it's the same way. I feel like you need to know crop theory so you know how that crop is going to actually work in real time. And then by knowing that, you're going to be able to pick the best designs to go with, you know, things you want to crop. A lot of people want to crop around an applique or like a sunbonnet Sue. We'll say a sunbonnet Sue block. And a lot of people, maybe just a crosshatch, an easy design, an easy crosshatch. Well, they don't understand theory, so then when you get all this overstitching, it's like, how do I take that away? And there's not a lot of options there. So we're going to talk about theory, talk about designs that would work better than some others. And then, like I said, we'll take it to the machine and do some real-world applications with it. But at the end of this, I hope you just know how to, well, one, I hope you know how to crop. I hope you fall in love with crop. And then do some out-of-the-box things with crop, which is my favorite thing. When you're cropping something to make it into something else, and then you have a brand new design you can save. I don't know. I love crop. So, holy crop, we're going to get started. I'm going to turn the machine or the camera around, and we'll be right back. All right, everyone, here we are, and we are in Pro Stitcher Simulator. I'm on my laptop, and I know I'm in Simulator because my crosshairs are green. Remember, if our crosshairs are green, we're in Simulator. If they are purple, we are in free motion mode. And if they are orange, we are in Pro Stitcher mode. So, green crosshairs, and I'm on my computer, so I'm on Simulator. And I also have this Simulate button to tell me that I'm in Simulator. I have some designs here. They're all 10 by 10 because I want to show you how crop works and, you know, some different features of it. So I have 4 designs. I also have an area, and I can zoom in to my area. And it's just a circle. It's a 4-inch circle. And I got this by opening a circle design, the circle block. I made the circle 4 inches tall, 4 inches wide. I hit rubber band area and it made my area for me. So the reason it is dashed because I use the rubber band area button. And anytime you use rubber band area or you've edited an area, you're going to get a dashed line instead of a solid pink line. But this is my area and these are my designs. So I want to move my area and crop something out of this. And we're going to pretend this is an applique or something on our quilt, and we either want to only quilt inside it or we want to quilt outside it. All right, so I'm going to come over here to my workspace. So remember, in Pro Stitcher, we're always doing Files, Ribbon, Sidebar. So sidebar's on the right, and I'm going to tap the Workspace tab in our sidebar. And a really easy way to select that area is to look down here. It says Area. I will click on it, and we'll see that our area turned green. When it's green, it means you're editing your area. Nothing else is selected. And I want to move this area into the middle of these designs. So I'm going to hit this drag button. And I can drag and drop my design over, or my area in this case, and I'll hit drop. Now I'm going to zoom in so we can see. I always say I have to make it big so I can see. And I'm going to select my select tool and just click anywhere. We'll see my area goes back to pink, which means it's not in the edit mode. And I want to select this design. This is just an easy straight line design that I've made up in Pro Stitcher Designer. It stitches to the right, stitches to the left, and comes back up, and continues doing that all the way. Well, let's pretend that we want to crop out and only keep what's in the center. And for those of you who don't know what crop is, cropping is taking an area and deciding you either want to stitch only inside that area, so you're only going to keep that part of the design, or you want to stitch only on the outside of the area. Most people who have used crop before have used it on a computer with a photo, and you're usually keeping the interior. A lot of times when we use crop on the Pro Stitcher and on our long arms, we only want to use the exterior. We're trying to stitch around something. And that's where the theory really comes in, because we need to know what's going to happen when we hit those crop buttons. So I'm going to hit modify in our files, crop in our ribbon, and then over in the sidebar we have some options. We can crop the outside, which keeps the inside, or we can crop the inside, which only keeps the outside. We can also crop the start and the end, and I think we'll just do a whole video on that. So this one will be cropping some different things, and then I'll show you why you would crop the start and end, some different applications you can use for that. And then this edges button, we'll have it stitch, kind of we call it closing the edges or stitching the jumps, but more on that when we get to it. In this case, let's say we only want to stitch the inside of this circle. So I'm going to crop the outside to only stitch the inside. And if I push the wrong button, I can always come and click the other one. It doesn't save it until we baseline it. And I will zoom in close so we can see what's going on. And in this case, it's going to start here, and it shows it's stitching over and jumping, and stitching over and jumping, and stitching over and jumping, and continuing all the way. Now, if we select our edges button, let's see what happens. And we can see that the whole thing, no more jumps. It starts here, and it ends here. And I don't know if you can tell, but there's a little bit of a darker area on the side, because how the machine is going to stitch, it's going to stitch over and back, and then stitch up this curve, over and back and stitch up, and over and back and stitch up. And it's going to travel on our pink line. Now, some people hate this. Some people don't want any traveling and they do all those tie-offs. Some people only want traveling, so they don't do those tie-offs. It's all up to you. It's up to what the look you're looking for. I tend to just have it stitch it because it's one less thing for me to worry about. Another really important thing, or one really important thing, is when you're using crop, baseline is your new best friend. It's already your old best friend, but now it's even more important when we baseline, because we want to make sure that we baseline after we crop, because let's pretend I came over here and I cleared my area. That whole design comes back because we didn't baseline. I'll hit undo till that comes back. Let's do those edges. Let me baseline this. So I'm going to click baseline, and it doesn't look like anything happened, but watch what happens if I clear my area. You can see what's left, and it's just the inside of that circle. And you can also see where it traveled on that circle. And we're going to talk about traveling more. It's very important when we're cropping. All right, I'm going to undo all those. So that was cropping the inside of the design. What if we are cropping the outside of the design? What if we only wanted to stitch the outside? We wanted to crop the inside. So I'll click on there and zoom in, and it's doing, oh, there. It looked like there was it was stitching a line, but it was just because we were zoomed out. So if you look at this, each one of these lines is going to tie off and jump. It's going to stitch over and back, tie off and jump, and then stitch over and up, tie off and jump, stitch over and back, tie off and jump, stitch over and up. So this has what, 3, 6, 20 tie-offs. This is where we say, holy crop. Seriously, 20 tie-offs in this little 4-inch circle. No thank you, not today. I don't want to deal with that. But there's something very important we need to look at, especially in this design, because there's so many tie-offs. If I hit edges, they all disappeared. But the machine has to stitch somewhere. They might have disappeared, but that machine still has to stitch somewhere. So it gets pretty dark here, and it gets dark up here, because this line, not so bad. It's going to stitch over, follow the pink line, stitch over, come back, and follow the pink line. So we have overstitching here twice, but all the lines stitch there and back, so we're okay. We'll stitch over, come up. When we get here, it's going to stitch this half circle, over, back, and the half circle. So now this part's been overstitched 4 times. We can add the next series. This part is now stitched over 6 times. This little piece 4 times. This one 2. And then when we get to this line, this is overstitched twice. 4, 6, and this piece right here has been stitched over 8 times. So at the top and the bottom, they're both going to be stitched over 8 times by the time this thing is done stitching. So if you're someone who doesn't want to see any overstitching, maybe this isn't the option for you. Maybe you're going to do those tie-offs because you don't want that overstitching, especially at 8 layers of stitching. You know, you're definitely going to be able to see that. So I'm going to hit no crop. And we're going to jump over to our next design. So this design is just running right and left. And remember, if we wanted to crop the inside, but we didn't want to deal with jumps, we had all of that overstitching. Now, there's designs out there that you can purchase, and I'm just going to move this one out into my world somewhere, and we'll drag and drop over here. And I can zoom in. There are designs out there from the different designers where you can buy Pro Stitcher designs that sell applique designs. And those applique designs are made to work with cropping something out of the middle, because a lot of people don't like that overstitching. So I made this, again, I made this one in Designer. And you might think, well, it kind of looks exactly like the last one, except there's lines on the side. This one's way different. This is going to stitch to the center and stitch back. Stitch to the center and stitch back. All the way to the bottom, stitch over, and then it works up the right side, stitching to the center and back. So we start here and we stop here. So watch what happens. Let's see if I can move this up a little bit. There we go. Watch what happens when let's see, crop, and we'll start with the inside. Or we're going to crop the outside first. So we'll do the opposite. Now see how this one has starts and stops all on the outside of it? Instead of the other one that had the start, or the 1 row and a jump, 1 row and a jump. There's actually a seam where these meet in the middle on this. So it can't just stitch over and jump. I can close my edges, and this is going to stitch the outsides, and it's going to stitch it, there's maybe, let's see, in and out. No overstitching. So in this case, I might just do it like this. That's fine. A little bit of overstitching I'm usually not worried about. It's when it starts getting 8 layers, 10 layers. When the layers start wrapping around the whole design, we have to think of how is Pro Stitcher going to stitch this. You know, we don't get to pick. Pro Stitcher gets to pick. I will take the edges off and hit no crop. There's our design back. All right, so we've cropped the outside. Let's crop the inside this time. And we'll notice a few things. One, there's a start here and a stop here. And then you can kind of see it's going to jump back to this line. I'm not sure why it does that. I think it's something to do with the end of the line being here and cropping off the end of that. I'm not 100% sure, but there's no jumps in the center. It's not trying to work its way from one side to the other. So we fixed that, but there is a jump from here to here so it can start and down. What if I close the edges? Perfect. It fixed that problem. So now this wants to stitch in, stitch out, and down. Stitch in, stitch out, and down. No overstitching around that area. So if you have an applique and you didn't want any overstitching around the applique, maybe you're going to outline it yourself. You can use a design like this. And like I said, there's designs out there that say applique designs. And they all kind of work towards the inside and then travel back out. That might be the way to go. Let's do this. I am going to hit no crop. And we're going to move this out of the way. Now let's run over to the stipple. I'm going to drag this down and zoom in so we can see these two. Alright, so now we have this stipple. And if I stick this circle right in the middle and zoom in, I'll select our design. Now in this case, I'm not really sure what's going to happen because we can see, and usually, again, we're cropping the inside. We don't want to stitch over something. So this is where we kind of have to play and imagine. Because as it stitches, it wants to follow the path of least resistance. It gets here. I can assume it's going to jump if I close those edges. Actually, let's just hit crop, and we're going to crop the inside. We can see where everything's going to start and stop. So this is going to stitch around, hit here. It would travel to that next start point, come around, end here, travel, stitch this, and at this point, I don't know if it's going to stitch all the way around the top or all the way around the bottom of this. But it has to get from point A to point B, stitch all here, and then when it ends here, I'm assuming it's going to stitch up to get to this piece. So let's close those edges. And it looks like when it got here, it stitched towards the bottom, finish, and stitch toward the top. In this case, I would probably use this. There's a little bit of overstitching here and here, but those are the only two places. And if it's overstitching once, I'm okay with that, especially if it's in the ditch next to an applique. We usually don't have to worry about anything. If we were to do the outside, it's just going to stitch these little waves and no overstitching because it just has this little area. But in the outside of this one, I like this. I might not worry about it. The other thing that you can do that a lot of people don't know is if I hit drag and I haven't baselined, oh, I want to do it actually. We'll do it on the next one. We'll do it when we do the circle meander. So this is a way to kind of look at a design and see how it's going to work with the cropping that you're doing. Let's hit no crop. Push the edges, and I'll zoom out and move this out of the way. And this time I'm just going to move my circle meander, if I can select it, to my circle and zoom back in. Now, circle meander is an interesting design because it stitches up and then comes back down and over and then finishes. So it has a very unique path that it stitches because it's going to stitch here and come back down and then stitch over here, come back all the way to the left, come back to the top right, fill back in over here, and then finish. So if we cut out, if this area, I'll just move the design, how about that? So maybe my design fell right here. And I want to get that little circle in here. Maybe this is what I needed to crop out. And maybe, there we go. Okay, perfect. So, and it happens to land right here. Easy crop. If I need to crop out the inside of that, very easy crop. I could close those edges, it's stitched to here, and just jump. All right. Now, let's say no crop, and I move this. If it crops here, there might be a little bit more going on. We have a lot of starts and stops. Again, they're not super terrible. This one would not worry me, but definitely something I would look at, because how is it going to get from here all the way up to the top? I can close my edges and see, and it looks like it's going to stitch to the left and then come back in and stitch. So there's places that it's going to overstitch, but not a ton. I would still overstitch this in my personal opinion, but again, that's just me. Let's say no crop. What if we were here? What's it going to look like? Not bad. It'll travel from here to here, do some stitching, come back, do some more traveling. Let's close that and see. So it's going to have some overstitching here and some up at the top. Nothing too terrible. Oh, I hit the wrong button. And then over here, if I had something like this, an easy travel, because it just has to travel from here and down, which we can see. It has to go from end to beginning. What if we wanted the center of this? So I'm going to select my area, and I'm going to resize this and say that I want the height of this to be 6. I'm going to drag that over, and I wanted to crop. I have to. There we are. And I want to crop the inside of this circle. I only wanted to stitch the in, or I wanted to crop outside. I only wanted to stitch the inside. So I'll crop. I will hit outside, and we'll see that it has some jumps. I'm going to close the edges, because in this case, I know that I can, if there's a little bit of overstitching, I'm fine. It's not going to be super terrible. Something that a lot of people don't know is that once we have this cropped, as long as we haven't baselined, if you come over here and hit drag, and you move the head of your machine, which moves the design, you can audition what you're cropping out. So maybe there's a design that field of flowers, or here, let me just file. I don't think you can see this open field of flowers, but I will open it for you. Field of flowers is one of my favorite designs to teach with. All right, so here's the field of flowers design. There's that. I don't want that. Let's go over here. Zoom in. All right, so here's the field of flowers, and say we want to crop. Nope, I don't want to. Nope, I want to crop, and we want to crop the outside. So a design like this, I'll close my edges. I can use the drag and drop, and I can audition. Maybe I want that flower to be right in the center. Maybe I want 2 flowers, and I can pop them here. You can decide what you actually want to stitch and audition those to be perfect the way you want them. A lot of people don't realize that you can do that. So it's just like fussy cutting. We're fussy cutting a crop, which is super cool. It's a very, very neat feature with our pro stitchers. I'm going to clear my area. When I watch this, I'm going to clear my area, and the circle meander will come back because I did not baseline it. So there's that. So that's just a little bit of crop. I'm going to call it crop theory. I'm going just to do it. Ooh, that was loud. Do a 2-corner area. Did you see that those circle meander disappeared again? And it is because I have not taken that crop away, and I haven't, do you see it show up inside my area? I haven't turned off crop. So I'm going to turn off crop, and it wasn't baselined. All right, so that's just a little bit of crop theory. Gosh, I feel like I'm a professor. You all get A's. Straight A's for everybody. The next video, I will put it to use. I'll go on the machine. We'll crop some areas, have it stitch, see the difference between what the designs look like when we close the edges or keep them open. And then I'll also show you how to crop multiple designs. I think that comes up a lot too. And you can only have one area open at a time. So how do you crop multiple? How do you, if you have 4 designs, if you only have one area, how do you get those? So I'm going to show you how to do those. That'll all be in the next video, so you'll have to follow along. make sure you subscribe to the channel. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and don't forget to hit that bell icon so you're notified when those new videos come out. Follow me at AdamSoFun on Facebook and Instagram, where I post more stuff that doesn't make it to the YouTube, but then some if I'm doing classes. I know that I'm home in February for some time, so I think I'm going to do a few classes in February, so keep an eye out for that, and that's all going to be linked through AdamSoFun.com. And I hope you're having a good year so far. I hope you're stitching a lot. I hope you're loving your machines. And thank you all for all the great questions. If I don't get back to you super fast, I'm sorry. When I'm on the road, I tend to get right to work and only think about what's going on at work and not getting back to those emails as fast as I usually like to. When I'm home, usually a day or two. So thank you all. See you in the next video, and remember, at the end of the day, it's just quilting. We'll see you next time.